Can you imagine these pews without the pew cushions? Don't you appreciate short sermons? See the gift you get, right? Well, I want to tell you a story about my biggest and worst baptism disaster. I can't see the choir, so I have to go back. All right, so let me set the stage. This was a very 1950s style church. In other words, it wasn't big and glorious and beautiful. It was utilitarian and ugly, okay? It just was. It just wasn't very pretty, but it was a good little church. And it was one of these that had those big arches over the center, made it look like kind of a boat, and a lot of white wood. But we added color and spice, and it was all good. Now, they had this beautiful, and guess who moved it to the center of the chancel every time we did a baptism? Because I didn't have staff. It was me and a part-time pianist and a quasi-secretary. I'm giving her a lot of credit there. So it was me. So I'm hauling out this is when I was young and I could do these things. Anyway, big, gorgeous, white marble baptism font. It was lovely. I mean, you just wanted to sprinkle everybody. It was so pretty. All right, so, you know, the only place you can get baptized is the church. And we do baptisms for people we might never see again. And some people don't like that. But to me, this is what we do. And maybe something of the holy will stick. That's why I do it. But anyway, so this was a family, extended family of a church family. So I didn't know them, but the family of the church thought it was important, and they had either through guilt or coercion or something, hauled them all in here to get a baby and a toddler baptized. Then I made my first mistake. I baptized the baby first. Oh, and it was lovely, you know. It was good. Then I went for the toddler. Now, what do you know about toddlers? They have found the word no. They have their own ideas about the world. You know, babies have to be compliant because it's that or I drop them, right? I was kidding. I would never drop a baby. Golly. You all got to lighten up a little, okay? Anyway, so I go reach for the toddler, and he goes into my, up on my big hip, and as I walk toward the baptism font, he screams, bloody murder, "No water! No water!" I made it. It was a disaster. I barely got him spritzed. I took a little water, and as he ran away, I threw it at him. But he got baptized, sort of. Always do the toddlers first. But maybe that little boy knew something that we have forgotten. That when you get near the waters of baptism, you better watch out. Because something big, something countercultural is going to happen. Isn't that what happened with Jesus when he was baptized in the River Jordan by John the Baptist? Isn't that what's supposed to happen when we're baptized? Something big, something edgy. This is why I put an order in for a deluge this morning. No, I didn't, okay? I don't do that. But I wanted us to be reminded the power of water. There's power in the waters of baptism. And you sit there and you seem skeptical. As good low church Protestants, you say, so what's so important about baptism? Why do we do this ancient ritual? It is a ritual that predates Jesus. Well, I'm going to enlighten you a little bit. In the United Church of Christ, we have two sacraments, like most Protestants, baptism and communion. As I taught the confirmation classes, sacraments are vehicles of the holy. Sacra, sacred, meant, vehicle. And through simple earthly things like water, wine, bread, something holy comes through, and if we're paying attention, it will touch us. The sacraments and the sacrament of baptism is something God does. We don't have a thing to do with it. That's why we baptize children. That's why children are welcome at the table. Because if it's up to human understanding, we will get in the way. Sacraments are what God does, and it's not about understanding it here. It's about letting the holy soak into us here. In the United Church of Christ and in this congregation, we baptize children and adults. And here's what the official language in our book of worship says. Excuse me. We want to get all official-fied. Baptism, it writes, is a mark of our acceptance into the care of God's church. The sign and seal of our participation in God's redeeming work in the world. And the beginning of our new growth into a life full of faithfulness. Did you know you were supposed to do all that? Or let's put it simply, when you rise from the waters of baptism, God's voice resounds through the universe. This one right there with the wet head, that's my beloved child. And our takeaway is that our life from then on should look like it. We should live like we're a beloved child of God. So my question today is, do you live like you're baptized? Jesus did. We're supposed to follow him. Do you live like you're baptized? Do you live like you're a beloved child of God? Or do you denigrate God's gift of you? Deny the belovedness within you. The belovedness that is only you. Somebody last week said, Reverend Sara, why are you so outrageous? I looked at them in disbelief. And I said, guys, there's only one of me. I want you to remember it. The belovedness that is only you. Or do you listen to all the nonsense in the world and you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, not smart, thin, popular, rich, happy, successful enough, you're not loved enough, you're not healthy enough, you're just not enough. You just can't quite grab onto that you're the beloved. You are the beloved. And we wonder then why we have such trouble loving everybody else. When we don't believe or live like we are lovable, if we don't see it in us, we will never be able to see it in the person next to us. I'm not talking ego. I'm talking self-groundedness in the holy, self-groundedness in that you are enough. Oh, if you could see what God sees. This is why baptism should not be reduced to a sweet thing we do with babies. And then we have a party. Baptism is edgy. It's radical. It's the holy cutting through all that nonsense. It's the holy cutting through our humanness, through our wounds, through those things that have tore us down over the years. It's God trying to break through the nonsense. Because baptism recognizes our belovedness. It is here when we baptize each child, each youth, each adult, we are saying, don't forget, you are God's beloved. See, baptism is the spiritual tonic to all the negative that circulates in us, around us. And yes, we have to confess through us. We add to it, don't we? Either about tearing ourselves down or the people around us. Usually the ones we're supposed to love the most, we do it the worst too. And then we talk about how we love our neighbor. Whew, we can't even get out around ourselves. This is why baptism is so radical. As we come up out of the water, as we dry our hair, as we look at that baby, or Pat Clark, when we baptized her last month, it is a reminder God sees you different. You're okay. In fact, you're beloved. See, baptism proclaims exactly opposite what the world tells us. The waters of baptism proclaim that all of us, yes, me too, are accepted, celebrated. We're created good, and then we screw up. But we're created good. We forget that each of us, you, me, the person on either side of you, the person that slept in our hall last week because it was so cold, or the person that slept under the bridge last night, or the person that slept in the mansion, they're all beloved. The humble and those who could stand to have a little more humility. The gay and the straight and all the confused in between. And trust me, there are confused in between. The black and the white, and don't forget the brown. They're all the beloved, the Muslim and the Jew, the citizen and the undocumented, the native and the immigrant, the hopeful and the hopeless. You are beloved. And then the edginess continues when we take our baptism vows. You either take them for yourself, or maybe you took them for your children. Someone took them for you. In the vows, we promise to resist the powers of oppression and evil. Resist the powers of oppression and evil. That's heavy talk in us liberal folks. That's heavy talk. But then the next breath, and receive the new life that is in Christ. In that vow, what we are promising is to live like the beloved and to treat everyone else like they're beloved too. We promise when we see something that has folks not treated as the beloved, we will resist those powers that oppress them, whether it's poverty or homelessness or the color of their skin or their religion or where they come from. We will resist it because they are the beloved too. We are promising when we take our baptism vows or we renew them because we were a child when someone took them for us, to live like we are loved by God. How would you live differently if you really grasp that? In every decision, every action, every word, toward another, toward a group of people, that we would express that they are loved by God as well. Think how we could change the world if we really lived like we're baptized. So today, we're going to get a reminder. We're going to renew our baptism. Some of us, I was a darling little 6-month-old. Okay, I was a darling 6-month. Okay, you're not with me today. Okay. I don't know if I was darling or not. I ate a lot. That hasn't changed, right? Brother Clarence Owen baptized me. I never knew him. He died a month later. I'm hoping as his little wobbly hand was doing the water that it hit some on my head, but it counted. We don't remember the words that were said. We don't remember the power that is in the waters of baptism. So today we're going to renew our baptism and we're going to remember. And as you leave to go get some of Heidi's goodies, dip your hand in the water there. It's clean, chlorinated, all good. Take a stone of remembrance. Take the one that speaks to you. Some are blue, some are clear, some are all different colors. There's a towel there that you can dry your hand. Put that stone where you can see it, touch it, where it can jar your memory that you are baptized and that it matters. It is a sacrament. The holy has come to us, and it matters that you are the beloved. And with that claim that falls on you comes a responsibility to love yourself and to see the belovedness in everyone else. Now you need to know, coming and taking your stone is not for the faint of heart. It takes two things. So I want to know if you're ready today. Do you think enough of yourself? Do you have enough self-worth to come to the water so you can embrace that you are the beloved? If you have enough, come. And I would urge, somebody sits next to you and doesn't have enough, you hold their hand and walk them. Walk them to the water. Because you see the belovedness in them. And then you got to have courage. Do you have enough courage to dip your hand in the water, take your reminder stone, courage to follow Christ, courage that you need to be reminded to resist oppression, to change the world? Come and renew your commitment to live like everybody else is beloved too. Now I'll begin with the story of the toddler who didn't want the waters of baptism. No water! No water! I want to end with a different story. There was a man here in our community. He had a checkered past. He had come to meet with me, and he read out of his journal as he confessed his regrets. It was heavy. He talked with me about the change that he wanted in his life to try and repair the wounds he had caused. He wanted to live like Christ. And then he asked me to baptize him as a sign of new life, a new beginnings. He wanted a spiritual reset. He had enough self-worth to say, I need to be soaked in God's love for me. And he had enough courage to say, I need to be soaked in God's justice for others. Some of you will remember that day. Church was full. Sun was out. There wasn't any water anywhere in the building except in the bowl. And he kneeled here in this sacred space because he was about 3 feet taller than me. But because he was bald, I didn't just spritz him. I let the waters roll. I had water splashing all over that fella. I figured he wanted it, we were going to give it to him. And when he stood and turned to hear the loving affirmation of his community, you, the flowing waters had turned to flowing tears from all of us. Because we knew something was in the water. We knew his baptism reminded each of us who we are and whose we are. Because that day we heard the same voice Jesus heard. It fell right over all of us. You are my beloved. Look around, so is everyone else. Now go, live like you're baptized. Indeed.